everybody back to the space. And just to take an opportunity, just to take a breath. If you've been following throughout the entire day, I want to just thank you for your support, your energy, your whatever you bring into the table, because spending a whole day of doing this, taking in the wisdom, taking in the insight, can be very draining. So I'm encouraging you to make sure you're hydrating yourself, and you still have a little while before we actually go live with the speaker of the evening. So if you still need to stretch a little bit to do so, feel free to do just that. And just want to share a little energy with each and every one of you. We've had some amazing words that have been showing up for today, in regards to the card pulls, in regards to which each speaker that has shared. So for example, if you caught Tammy's segment, her word was freedom. So how does freedom play in your world? Then we also have with Kitty, she had I think hers was I can't even say it. Oh my goodness gracious, charisma. There you go. How does that show up in your world? Gratitude, which is the most recent word, which came from Krista, gratitude. For those of you who don't know, not aware, if you are feeling as though your energy is a little low, or you're feeling a little tired or overwhelmed, the best way to elevate your energy is focusing on gratitude. Think about 3 things that's going on right now that you can think about that you are grateful for. And then we'll have some new words to play in for today, and of course the cards that show up. So what I like to do in this moment is to pull a card. Let me see if there's anyone floating around that I did not catch. Make sure my speaker is not sitting around waiting for me. So yes, the speaker is not here just yet. And I'm going to pull a card. See what we need to know for this segment. After all, each segment is very different, yet they all share a story, bringing us right to. We started the morning off with our inner dragon. Then we moved into our navigation system of astrology, and then making your space neat so you can make space. And then we had our beautiful crystals, utilizing the crystals and how you can place those crystals in your placement, in your space to enhance, whether it's your wealth, your health, your relationships. There's so many beautiful reasons to use crystals. In addition, we're going to get ready to dive into the Akashic records. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm really interested. These last 2 topics that are coming in tonight, the Akashic records and then the deck doula. Although I loved all of the speakers, these 2 speakers that are coming in towards the end, these are the 2 speakers that I've actually been waiting to hear and speak about, because one I know has an extremely powerful topic to share with her story, and the other one, which is our speaker that's coming up shortly, I don't know much about her. So I'm going to sit at this moment with each and every one of you at the edge of my chair, being curious to know about her and the work that she does as an Akashic record reader. I do work with the Akashic records as well, so I'm very intrigued. So let's see what card we need to. What a perfect card to come in for the Akashic records. Perfect. Financial abundance. Financial abundance. Such a perfect card. Perfect message. Because again, yes, when we talk about the Akashic records and when we talk about financial abundance, what a perfect combination. And maybe, hopefully, we'll get to talk about that a little bit. Now, diving into the chakra is the 3rd eye. So the vision that you hold for financial abundance. And then 17. When we talk about 17, as you add that 1 and 7, we bring it back to 8. Now, I believe the number 8 has shown up a multitude amount of times in today's overall day. 8 is the vibration of this current year of 2024. 8 is about your abundance. And when we talk about our chakra system, 8 is about the soul star energy, which I believe, if I'm not incorrect, I do believe has a big role in the Akashic records. And I'm going to just take another minute. I'm also going to bring up a speaker here, bring her in. And before I dive in and introducing our speaker for today that I'm really excited about having here with us, I want to remind you that, again, If you are watching live and was hoping to be here in the Zoom room, please go ahead and reach out to one of the other speakers besides the two who you see on the screen right now and get that Zoom link. The Zoom link has changed early this morning, so I don't want you to try to get in and find out you can't. So please, and I know Kitty will go ahead and send out a message in her group, and Nancy can send a message out in her group, and anybody else who's watching your friends, send it out to your group. Do not post the Zoom link on Facebook Live, please. We want to avoid what took place this morning. And then remembering that the last 10 minutes of the day of this segment, we will go offline for the Q&A, which will be very intimate, personal, and an opportunity to connect with our amazing speaker that's here with us right now. So now that I've done a lot of chatting, let me introduce our speaker for the day. Let me grab her bio. I'm super excited. Here we go. Here we go. So we have Reverend D. Rose Hope. She's known as Reverend Rose Hope. She is a dynamic thought leader in spiritual and business development, driven by a profound mission to create heaven on earth. Her journey for chronic illness and surviving two near-death experiences has fueled her passion for transforming lives. With over 20 years of expertise in health, education, and personal development, Rose has empowered countless individuals to unlock their potential and achieve lasting success. As the founder and CEO of Rose Hope INC, Rose guides those on a quest for higher purpose, teaching them to harness their intuition and master their minds. Her insights have made her a sought-after speaker at prestigious, thought that word was going to get me, institution like Harvard University, and a recognized figure on ABC, NBC, Global Television, and CTV, lots of letters there. Her visionary leadership has earned her numerous, that word's gonna get me there. Yeah, well, maybe we'll skip over that one. We'll let her talk about that. Woohoo! Her status as a trailblazer in both her spiritual and business realm, in addition to her entrepreneurial ventures. Rose is a devoted mother of two. Hold on one second, gotta bring somebody in. Of two, a prolific publisher and an international bestseller author, which, by the way, she just published her newest book. She's host of popular podcasts When Spirit Calls, and recently released her debut fantasy fiction novel. The Arc 2024, Rose's unique blend of heart and intellect inspires others to manifest their own vision of heaven on earth. Now, let me just say, I thought my bio was long. Girlfriend. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you today, Miss Reverend D. Rose? How are you today?
Hello, hello. I'm doing so good. So good to be here. Thank you for that beautiful introduction.
I'm excited to have you here and really excited to dive into this topic for today.
Mm.
Um, let's see where we're going to dive in. So right off the back, what's your story? Or how do you come to becoming a metaphysical reverend and a
Mm.
Akashic expert? That's a mouthful, so go for it.
Oh, hi everyone. I'm so happy to be with you on this wonderful Sunday, or maybe it's a Saturday if you're over the world somewhere. Maybe it's a Monday, who knows? But either way, I'm so happy to be here. Can I just start us off by just allowing us to let a smile come to our faces? Oh, just letting yourself grin, letting yourself smile can just do so much for us. As I was frantically driving my children to hockey today, in between doing this event and what have you, I noticed that I was like, I had that, that resting, not so good face, And it reminded me of a little meme that I saw called the resting bliss face. I love the idea of having a resting bliss face. And so just inviting that smile to come to your face and notice how that shifts the energy. Notice how it makes you feel when you just allow yourself to just let that smile come to your face. So I have quite a story, let me tell you, as we all do. And some of the stories here are just so profound. And this one in particular really guided me in terms of who I was and who I was meant to be here on this plane. So when I was 5 years old, I had my first near-death experience. I choked on one of those round jawbreaker candies. Do you guys remember those round hard candies? So I was eating one of those, and my dad said, "Go sit down before you choke." And I turned to go sit down, and I choked. My dad
Mm.
came running behind me, wrapped his arms around me, started doing the Heimlich, and that jawbreaker would not come free. So I ended up going limp in my dad's arms, and I had an out of body experience. I remember in my 5-year-old mind floating above my body, watching my dad. I remember watching my mom calling for help, my older sister peeking around the corner to see what the commotion was. But I didn't feel that chaos below. I felt total, utter peace. I felt as though I was being held in the arms of God or divine, whatever you call that source. And so it was such a loving, blessed experience for me. My dad did what you're not supposed to do, by the way. He used his thumb, pried into my throat, was able to get enough leverage under that jawbreaker, and he ended up getting it out and got me breathing again. So my dad blessed me with life, not once, but twice. And as a result of that experience, things started to become really noticeable. I was raised in a Catholic home, very loving home, but I started to have very lucid visions and dreams. So I started to see things before they would happen. I remember getting up one morning and saying to my mom, "Hey, mom, so and so's mom died last night." And my mom's jaw dropped because she had just got off the phone and found out that sure enough, so and so's mom had died that night. So these things started to happen to me, but I noticed it made my mom feel a bit uncomfortable. And so I just hid those things. You know how we do that? We hide those gifts of ours, afraid to be seen and heard in the world. And so I just became an overachiever people pleaser instead, because I thought, hey, if God gave me another chance at life, then oh my goodness, I better prove that God did right by me, that was the right choice. And so by grade 4, I was the president of the Kids for Saving Earth Club. I really had big endeavors, and I remember as a child wishing that I could become an angel so that I could be in the space, the heavenly space that I was in as that 5-year-old being. So I struggled with that because I felt like I was stuffing so much away. I fast forward to my career, I decided I want to be an EMT and firefighter because I wanted to save lives like my dad saved mine. And so I started that work, and I thought I was losing my mind because spirits would come home with me. So I would end up having multiple showers because I didn't understand it. I thought I was losing it. And so I ended up leaving that career and actually teaching in the health sciences. And then something else happened, another near death. Now, the second near death, I was actually recovering from knee surgery. I had reconstructive knee surgery from an old skiing injury, and I was at home recovering. Now, my experience as an adult was very different than my near death as a 5-year-old. As an adult, what happened was I was hobbling on my crutches to get from the kitchen to the bed I had made in the living room. And all of a sudden, everything started to go black. Everything started to go black. And something happened to me in that moment. I was transported to what I can only describe as heaven. I was completely in this euphoric, joy-filled space. It felt so good to be there. And before I knew it, I was seeing these beautiful orbs of light coming and surrounding me. These were the brightest colors. I wish I could share with you the colors of these beautiful energies that I know were angels as they came around me. And it was such a glorious experience. I remember saying to them, not necessarily with words, but I remember thinking it in my mind, I'm staying here. This is so incredible. Why would I want to leave? Right? It was just so filled with unconditional love. And it felt so good. And I heard them say back to me, "You're not done yet. You have work to do." And this is what happens with a lot of people in near deaths, where it's like it's not quite their time yet. And so I was transported back to finding my brother-in-law, who had thankfully caught me when I went completely unresponsive. He had caught me and he was about to do CPR. And I woke up and I didn't know how to articulate what had just happened to me. Again, you have to remember, I came from a science background. So even though as a child I knew things, I had stuffed those away and I needed evidence for certain things. And I thought, if I tell him, he's going to think I've really lost my mind. And so I kept it to myself because I was afraid. I was
Mm.
afraid to be seen and heard. Can you guys relate to that? Can anyone else relate to that? If you can, I'd love to hear it in the chat or even just put a little hand emoji up because I spent my life being afraid to be seen and heard. And so ultimately, what happened in the days following that second near death, I had a visitor, a girlfriend had come over, and I felt so compelled. I needed to share this experience with someone I felt safe with. And as I'm telling her about this experience with the angels, with heaven, my brother-in-law, who lived with me at the time, he came running into the kitchen, slammed his hand on the counter. He said, I knew it. I felt the angels too. He felt the angels too. And by the way, this happens with near-death experiences. If you were a bystander, sometimes other people say that they've also had some sort of spiritual experience. And he said he was about to call 911 because he couldn't find a pulse and I wasn't breathing. And he was about to call 911. And he said he felt the angels come in and they said, just wait, she's going to be fine. And within a few seconds after that, he said, I woke up with a smile on my face. So it's such a beautiful validation of that experience for me. And I knew from that point I needed to start speaking this. I needed to start sharing this and talking about it, no matter how I would be perceived. And so that shifted things greatly for me. And a lot of people say, oh, after that second near death, you probably had it all figured out. No, I did not. It took me a while. And so after that experience, I actually wanted to go back to that heavenly place. And this happens to a lot of NDE survivors as well, where we just want to go back to that heavenly place. So I started to look for heaven. I went on an adventure of looking for heaven. I thought, oh, I'll find heaven when I have children. I'll find heaven in the love of my life. I'll find heaven in a career that I love. Heaven wasn't out there, guys. Heaven was not out there. You know where I found heaven? In here.
That's
Heaven, heaven can only be created within us. It cannot be created outside of us. It must be created from inside of us. And so I started to recognize that. Now, I had another catalyst, another fork in the roads, if you will. And when my son was 6 months old, I was going through some major postpartum. And I felt that I was in so much pain and so much despair, and I wanted to go back to heaven so badly. I had decided I was going to exit this plane. I had made a decision that I was going to plan out my soon to be death because I could not, I struggled to find happiness. Has anyone played the I'll be happy when game? You know, I'll be happy when I get this level of success. I'll be happy when this is done. I'll be happy when whatever. I was playing that game and I was losing dreadfully. It is a losing game, by the way, right? And so I was in this space of feeling like I had lost and I had everything that anyone could ever want. I had a wonderful family, a wonderful home. I was loved. And then I felt guilty and shameful that I wasn't happy still. And so it was such a deep place of despair. And so with the postpartum combined with that, I was really in a bad place. I was a hot mess. And so I prayed and I said, okay, God, if this is not the path of exiting this plane, show me the right path. That's when everything changed for me. I was shown a vision of what I needed to do. And I created a company that I ended up giving away actually in a contest. And that led me down this spiritual adventure where I started to meet people who did the Akashic records and they were all sorts of spiritual teachers. And that made me curious. That revived the sense of awe and wonder in me. And I recognized that I had everything within myself in order for me to live this fulfilled life, in order to create my heavenly life that I had so craved for so long. And so ultimately I went in, I took the Akashic Records class. I'll never forget it. I went in as a skeptic, you guys. Okay. Again, science background. Okay. I'm going in thinking people can't do this hocus pocus woo-woo stuff. I went in with that judgment. And once I went in there and I just opened myself up a little bit to it, oh, folks, it was like magic. It was like magic. Everything I had forgotten came into my remembrance. And so my mission now is to help people to remember these beautiful gifts of inner technology that we have. This is my life's mission, to help us to remember that we all have this. And we don't have to have a near-death experience to remember either, by the way. We can certainly just start to recognize that we have those innate gifts within us. And so that has brought me to where I am today and running, this beautiful company and this beautiful team and being able to serve humanity in the way that I do.
I love that. I love it. I love the fact that you've experienced what you've experienced to get you to where you have to go. I always
Mm,
believe that we have to experience the journey we need in order to get us where we have to go. Because without it, you
yeah.
probably would not be doing what you're doing. So, with that being said, how do we overcome the chaos and the upset that's
Mm,
in the world? Because especially now, I mean, right now, specifically now, there is so much energy out there. I like to call it denser energy out there that because we are all very sensitive, we're picking up
yeah.
on it. So even more now than ever, we're really having to work on keeping our energy levels high.
Yeah. Yeah.
So share with us how
This,
we overcome this.
so, the first thing is that we are not meant to bear the burdens of the world on our shoulders. I know as like healers, as empaths, as light workers, we feel like we have a responsibility. However, many of us take on this energy of false responsibility. And so, if we're watching the news, which I don't suggest, or if we're talking to really negative people, or if we just have this idea of like, okay, well, we know that there's some stuff going on in the world, we have this tendency of taking it on. And so the first thing I remind people of is that we are not meant to carry that burden, that divine actually will carry that for us. We do not have to be martyrs in this life. And so it takes some practice because many of us have ingrained beliefs and subconscious imprinting that say that in order for me to be in service, I have to sacrifice myself. And I spent my whole life sacrificing aspects of myself. And so the reminder is that we can care without carrying. I love this one because it's so simple. I can care without carrying.
Yes.
And so when I notice some of that negative stuff happening or someone else is having trauma or drama and I feel myself feeling burdened by that, I remind myself I can care without carrying. I can extend love to this person, but I don't need to carry whatever that weight is, whatever that burden is. And of course, there's a lot of energy management techniques that we can do to help manage that. One of my favorites is that bringing in our energy field, because we also, as light workers and healers have a tendency of spreading out our energy field. And then everyone dumps their stuff in there, not intentionally, but it happens, right? The dumpers come in and dump their stuff. And so there's an invitation for us to bring in our energy field. And I'm going to just invite you to imagine this right now for yourself. Bring in your energy field. You could imagine it in your mind, or you can take your arms like I do with mine, like I'm going to give myself a hug. And I just bring in that energy field. And I envision it just like an egg-shaped dome kind of around me. And then I set this intention. I only allow energy serving me at my highest good into my sacred space. I only allow energy serving me at my highest good into my sacred space. This is such a potent intention. And when we say it with authority, it becomes a reality. So I don't get heavy as often anymore. There are sometimes I've got to reinforce that, of course, but for the most part, I am free of the weight of the world. And that is very different from the version of me, even, 5 or 10 years ago, where I carried so much sadness for the rest of the world. So that really helps me to clean things up. The other piece that's really important when, again, it feels like the sky is falling around us, our job is to trust. And I know trust is such a hard one for us to, to practice, but truly, if we can lean into trusting that divine is not only the supplier, but divine is the doer. And when I speak of divine, I'm speaking of God, source, again, creator, whatever you use. I love Gus too, God, universe, source, Gus. It's a fun way to connect with that divine energy. But divine is our supply. Everything, every experience that we have, whether we perceive it as good or bad, has been bestowed upon us through this beautiful energy of divine, through an energy of pure love to show us something, to grow us in some way. Can you guys think of a time when something happened in your life and you're like, oh my God, this is so bad. This is like the worst thing ever. And then you wait a couple days or a couple weeks and then you're like, oh my God, thank gosh that happened, right? You know, this is what we actually call continual expectancy. And actually, I want to give you guys an acronym because I think it's really helpful when we're starting to recognize how incredibly taken care of we are and how we can move through this world with a bit more of that heavenly grace. The acronym is WOW. So WOW. The first W stands for weaving spirituality into our day to day. And so, what I mean by that is that I'm a busy mom. I've been a single mom for a long time, running a busy business. And I was struggling to like carve out meditative time. And I was feeling really bad about that. I'm supposed to be a spiritual person. Like, I'm not spending hours in meditation. Oh no. And Spirit so gently said, hey, you can weave it in. It doesn't need to be this set apart time. And I had been so hard on myself and it needing to look a certain way. And so being able to weave spirituality in means being able to tune into the frequency of grace when you need it, being able to pause and take a deep breath, being able to just take that moment to appreciate whatever it is you have. So it doesn't need to look like a separate event from your day to day. You weave the spirituality in. And that for me was a real gift because it made it so that it didn't become a burden that I needed to do something of my spiritual practice. And I mean, of course, I suggest meditation daily, but it's just a wonderful way to like not have the pressure that we put on ourselves. Make sense? So weave the spirituality. The O in wow is opening yourself up to opportunity. So, opportunity, there is opportunity in everything. And continual expectancy. I want to explain what continual expectancy means because this is kind of my rule of thumb. This is what I live by. And in mysticism, the definition of continual expectancy is this: it is not that I expect a specific outcome, but it's that any outcome that does occur is exactly what I need for my highest good. So I'm not so attached to things needing to look a certain way. I'm not attached to any particular outcome other than the one that I know is serving my highest good. And I'm telling you, it's such a liberating feeling for us because it allows us to deepen our trust, back to that word, trust in divine taking care of us. That we, yes, we are indeed co-creators, but we have this wonderful, wonderful creator, this divine force that is guiding us and showing us the way. Our job is to be willing to accept it, surrender to it, and appreciate it, leveraging that experience for whatever the learning is, whatever the goodness is. And moving ourselves into that space allows for so much of that freedom, but allows for us to grow so much more expansively as well. So that O is really opportunity, opening ourselves to opportunity in everything, in every experience, whether we perceive it as good or bad. And the last W in the wow is wonder and awe. This is all about our childlike curiosity. And I love being curious. I wonder what would happen if I did that. I wonder if I choose that path instead of that path, what will happen this time? And so that wonder and that awe allows us to receive more of the value no matter what that experience is. Isn't that beautiful? So that's the wow. Weave spirituality in, open yourself up to opportunity in all things, and wonder and awe.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. I almost forgot that I am the presenter here and I'm taking my notes. And when she went quiet, I'm like, oh, it's my turn. I'm
I
like,
can keep going. I just didn't, I wanted to let you kind of step in
it's
if you
all
need.
good. It's all good. Sometimes I forget what hat I'm wearing. Anyway, so here we go. Next big question. What are steps to building a deeper relationship with God, divine creator?
Oh, I love this question so much. So, the first thing is understanding that the quality of the relationship we have with ourselves will be directly reflected in the quality of the relationships that we have outside of ourselves. So, in other words, what I mean by this is that yes, other people in our world will contribute to our evolution, but when we have a beautiful relationship with the multidimensional being that we are, oh my goodness, we can receive so much more in this world. So, I'm going to talk about it from a metaphysical standpoint of having the true self, which is known as the divine self, the higher mind, the God mind. And then we have the false self, which we might know as the ego mind, EGO, okay? The ego mind. And so, the ego mind, thousands of years ago, in the cave people days, we needed that ego because the ego would be like, ding, 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 there's a predator, make sure you run, you know? And so that ego was a survival mechanism for us. But over thousands of years, that ego has slowly taken over. So now the ego hijacks the mind. The ego comes in and says, oh, no, you can't do that. Let me give you an example of how potent the ego mind is. I was on a final exam of a final class of a degree. So I also have a degree in health management. And I'm writing this final exam. And because I had failed an exam in the previous class before and had to do a rewrite, my ego was chiming in as I'm writing this last exam. Like I'm on the finish line. I'm so eager to be done with this degree, right? And I'm writing my exam, and my ego's coming in, and my ego's saying, oh, you're failing. You don't know any answers. You're doing horrible, blah, blah, blah. By the time I finished that exam, I knew I had failed. I got to my car. I bawled my eyes out. I was so upset that I had failed this exam. And so I get home, I email my professor and I say, okay, I know I failed. Can you tell me what I need to focus on for the rewrite? Because I want to prepare now for the rewrite, knowing that I failed this exam. And my professor emails me back and she says, I don't know whose test you think you wrote, but you got 87%. Folks, I had convinced myself I had failed an exam that I got 87% on. You think the ego mind is powerful? Yes. And we buy into its BS all the time. We buy into the negative narrative all the time. Oh, you can't speak, or you don't know what you're talking about, or whatever it is. It's chattering away at you. That, my friends, will stop you from building a deeper relationship with divine and with truth. If we keep feeding it and keep listening to it, it just eats it up and it wants to come and make up all sorts of stories. Can you guys think about a time your ego made up a story that wasn't true? Right? We probably can all come up with many. And so the first relationship is to build a friendship with the ego mind, Kitty. You're reading my mind, friend. So build a relationship with the ego self. It does have value for you. It absolutely does. But because it doesn't know its place, we've never put boundaries in place for it. We've given it all the power. We're the ones that control the ego, not the other way around. And yet, most of humanity is letting the ego run the show. So, if we can build a relationship with that ego mind, oh my goodness, it's like so brilliant because then the ego, it's not running the ship anymore. It might come in to check in a few things, to help you heal a few things, but it's not running the show. And one of the first suggestions I have is to give your ego mind a name. One of my clients the other day called hers Ivana Gripe a lot. Isn't that funny? Ivana Gripe a lot. Isn't that funny? I think that's so funny. Ivana Gripe a lot. I mean, you can call your ego mind whatever you like, but the opportunity is to build a friendship with it and for you to catch it when it starts to interject with you again. So that in itself is powerful and will open up the floodgates to the divine to come in. So, of course, the next step is then to build a relationship with the loving divine within you, the God within you, the God mind, the divine mind, whatever you want to call that. And you can give the divine mind a name. Mine is Rose Hope. That's why she's the name of my book authoring, the name of my speaker, because when I am speaking, it is Rose that is speaking. It is divine that is speaking. Or I've gotten my ego out of the way so I can just allow whatever needs to be shared to be shared. And so, in building these beautiful relationships and partnerships, we open up this doorway to flow. Now, one of the other tips that I want to give you guys is I know that many of you listening have these already powerful intuitive gifts, but if you want to build those even more, you can also build a relationship to your gifts. So, for example, if you get a gut feeling that like you need to go that way instead of that way, listen to that gut, but acknowledge and talk to it and say, "Oh, thank you. Thank you for giving me a heads up on this. I see you, I hear you." Because those gifts themselves, they increase in their vibration when we give them attention as well. And then they're increasing in their vibration, and you therefore are getting even more information, more insight, and you're increasing your overall vibrational frequency. So these relationships with these multidimensional aspects of our being are potent and powerful. And when you have healthy relationships with those aspects of yourselves, you're going to notice that the outside relationships also begin to improve.
This is so powerful. And I'm loving the concept of giving your ego a name, giving your divine a name, and for that matter, giving your gifts a name. This is something I'll be working on. Loving that.
Beautiful.
Loving that. So if you would like to share some final words in addition to what you've shared already, what would you like to share with us?
Oh my goodness. I mean, so many things come to my mind. The first is, oftentimes we question our intuition because it's led us into a path where, perhaps we get steered into this path and it doesn't turn out so good. And we think, oh, I thought my intuition was guiding me to that person. And then it just all went to crap. Like, what happened there? And so Spirit has gently reminded me many, many times that our intuition is always right. It's our perception of the outcome that often isn't. And let me explain this. I had an experience where I was so drawn to this one particular person, and I was like, oh my God, they were like my soul family and so, so good. And things went really twisted and sideways really quickly. And I ended up feeling really rejected and really hurt in that experience. And I remember being angry about it, like, how could my intuition lead me down this path if I had to go through this? And Spirit was like, you need this lesson. Hello. So we think that it's all rainbows and butterflies when our intuition guides us down a path. Sometimes our intuition dials us into a rocky road as well, so that we can grow and evolve. The key is to trust that our intuition knows what it's doing. Trust that the experience is for our betterment, is for our learning. And then the other thing I really feel compelled to share is that in every given moment, we have everything we need and then some. We have everything we need and then some. And this is something that I really want to invite people to lean into because, especially when we feel like things aren't working out for us, they really are. It reminds me of the beautiful story of a farmer and his horse. And I feel compelled to share this because it's a really potent story and reminds us so much about the possibility. Um, this story goes back many, many years. This farmer has this prize stallion, and one day his prize stallion goes missing. And everybody in the village looks everywhere for the prize stallion. They can't find the stallion anywhere. The stallion is gone. And so the neighbors go to the farmer and they say, oh, this is the worst news ever. What will you ever do without your prize stallion? How are you going to get by? And the farmer shrugs and says, who knows what's good or bad? We'll have to wait and see. Well, the next day comes along, and guess what? Horse comes back with a herd of wild horses. So now he has a dozen horses. And the neighbors come over and they say, oh, rejoice. This is the best news ever. And the farmer says, who knows what's good or bad? We'll have to wait and see. And then the next day comes along, and now the farmer's son is out training the horses. He gets bucked off and breaks a leg. And the neighbors come over and they say, "Oh my God, worst news ever. What will you do without your son and a broken leg?" Da, da, da. Farmer says, "Who knows what's good or bad? We'll have to wait and see." Well, the next day comes along and the army comes to town. Well, they can't take the son. He's got a broken leg. So you can see the moral of the story is that we get so hooked in and we suffer so much judging the experience and thinking it's the worst thing ever, when really the story isn't ended yet. We don't have the big picture. We don't have all the pieces of the puzzle. So rather than get into that despair and that disappointment about how things you thought they should have gone, it's an invitation for us to say, "Oh, that's interesting that that happened. I wonder what's in it for me. I wonder what's in it for me." Even in the crappiest of experiences, I wonder what's in it for me. And that might sound like a selfish thing. It's not, because your job is to leverage, your job is to receive all of this amazing goodness. This is about creating heaven in yourself. And so your job is to receive the abundance that is given, even if the abundance is hard knocks. That is abundance too, the learning and the growing that we can experience in that. So I don't know if we have time, but I was hoping we'd have time for me to open the records for everybody.
Yes, we do have time. We have about 10 minutes before, got a little over 10 minutes to do that, so we could
Okay,
definitely.
okay. I like to stay in there at least 15 minutes. So I'm going to stretch us out as long as I can. Okay, everybody. So I want to encourage just to go through this experience. I'm just going to guide you through a little bit of a meditation, and we're going to tune into the frequency of heaven. Can we do that? Yes. Okay. Amazing. Thank you so much for your blessing. So for those of you that don't know, the Akashic Records is your soul's library. This is a sacred and safe place. However, if you do not want me to go into your records when I open the groups, you can just say, "No, thank you." You'll still have an experience here. Okay. Inviting you to take in some nice, relaxing breaths. If you can take those in through your nose and out through your mouth, taking a good few breaths there. And then as I say the prayer, just opening your heart to receiving. Here we go. God, divine light and source energy, thank you for allowing us to experience your pure love through the Akash. May all be blessed through the divine of the Akash for the highest good. And may divine beings of light help us to receive what is required for our most divine path and to support the divine path of others. Please allow all who are here and willing to experience your pure love found here. The records are now open. And as we tune into the records, some people might notice a shift, others may not. There's no right or wrong. But I want to invite you to just breathe in pure unconditional love. And when you're breathing that in, allow your entire body to breathe. So as though your skin is also breathing, because your skin can breathe too, from the tips of your toes to the top of your head, taking a breath, letting your entire body breathe in this beautiful unconditional love. And feeling that sense of joy here. I can feel Archangel Jophiel, and it doesn't surprise me. I wore my pink sweater today, and often Jophiel comes through as that pink fuchsia color. And so Jophiel is the bringer of joy. No surprise. I think she's preparing for Nancy Nance and on the tails of the earlier conversations this morning around joy. And so really just tuning into joy and how that makes you feel. And I invited you earlier to bring a smile to your face. And I just invite you to have that resting bliss face come back to your face again. And just opening yourself up to all the beauty and the wonder that is available to you right here, right now. I want to invite you to tune into your senses. What would heaven look like to you? What would heaven look like to you? Does it look like you're in the clouds? Does it look like nature? For me, I get taken to this beautiful waterfall. I always feel such a heavenly presence near water. Maybe it's the ocean, maybe it's the mountaintop for you. Wherever that heavenly place is, just allow yourself to visualize that. Maybe heaven for you is the embrace of someone you love. Maybe heaven for you is your bed tucked in the warm covers. Whatever heaven is for you, just trying to imagine that in your mind. And I want you to also tune into your smells. So when you take a breath, can you smell? What would heaven smell like? Does it smell like lavender? Does it smell like roses? What does heaven smell like for you? I love the smell of lilac. So every spring when the lilacs come out here in Canada, I just feel so heavenly as I'm taking in those breaths of the lilacs. And so just tuning into whatever brings you that warmth and that comfort of heaven. And then even tuning into our ears. What can we hear? What does it sound like in heaven? For me, as a busy mom, silence sounds pretty heavenly to me. But perhaps you can hear angels singing. Perhaps you can hear a beautiful breeze or the waves of the ocean. Allow yourself to just tune into that frequency. What does heaven sound like? Perhaps we can take this a step further and even taste in our mouths, maybe licking our lips and maybe taking a swallow. What does it taste like to be in heaven? I can taste some chocolate cheesecake that I had yesterday. That was like heaven to me. So just tuning into what heaven might taste like. And just inviting you now to just receive heaven completely. Allow yourself to be enveloped in this heavenly energy, this feeling of grace now, this feeling of unconditional love. You are completely held by divine. Let yourself be nourished. Allow yourself to come into a place of receiving all of that unconditional love and nourishment. And as I breathe in, I can hear a message from Archangel Jophiel. So I'm simply going to channel her message to all of you now. Hmm. Hmm. Welcome, dear beloveds. What a wonderful opportunity for collective consciousness, for connection, and for this opportunity to expand yourselves. I commend you on your willingness to be open to all that is available to you. There is an infinite supply of possibility for you. And I invite you now to tune in to what we call the realm of possibility. This realm of possibility is an infinite number of timelines that you can select for yourself and your highest good. I present you with these timelines and I invite you to see the one that is the brightest, the one that is glowing for you, the timeline where you have discovered heaven on earth. You have found heaven within yourself and you can access it in the present at any time. You simply must be aware that it is already in existence. And as you come to that awareness, you can witness that timeline for yourself. This is the timeline of your most divine destiny. Can you give yourself a sense of that timeline where you become the author you have dreamed, where you become the speaker you have dreamed, where you become the mother, the grandparent, whomever you have dreamed yourself to be? This is already available to you. It's already happening for you. And so taking a moment here to breathe this beautiful energy in, for you to receive the most divine timeline for yourself, to feel this and to receive it. Can you welcome it in your heart? Can you allow yourself to receive this divine timeline and welcome it into your heart? Breathing it in, breathing this highest vibrational frequency, feeling it within your cells, dear ones. Can you see that even your cells are brighter now? Can you see that they are eager with anticipation? Can you see that they already feel the joy of that timeline? It has arrived, reminding you to Be as present as you can, for that is where heaven lives, in your ultimate presence. Dear ones, welcome this in. Allow yourself to receive, saying to yourself in your mind, I receive. Or if you feel compelled, saying it out loud, I receive. I receive the abundance of the divine. I receive the idea that divine is doing the work for me. All I need to do is acknowledge when I wake up in the morning that divine is indeed doing the work on behalf of me, and there is no burden to carry. Breathing in this, knowing that you are being taken care of always, that there is an infinite supply of energy for you always. Taking a moment to breathe this in, allowing that to come into your heart. So I want to thank you for receiving that from Archangel Jophiel and receiving that from me as well as we shared in this sacred space. I am going to invite you to just slowly bring yourself out of meditation if you haven't jumped out already, and just with some movement, some gentle rocking, perhaps stretching the body, perhaps moving the eyes or bringing that smile to your face, but just inviting you to come back here as we come into our wrap up. Welcome back. And if anyone has any questions or anything like that, feel free, Joanne, wherever you want to go next. And I will be closing the records in just a few minutes. I just want you guys to receive as much value in them. So I will be sure to close them as our final wrap up.
Perfect. So just a reminder, again, for anyone who's watching during the Facebook Live, if you wish to join us in the Zoom room for the Q&A, which will not be live, nor will it be recorded. The purpose of that is that it's a sacred space that you can be open to ask whatever questions you wish to ask. This would be the time to go ahead and reach out to any of the speakers to get that Zoom link. We will not be posting it on in the comments because we don't want any intrusions showing up. So if you are interested in joining us in the group, please go ahead and message any of the speakers that you know. And at that point, I just want to finish it off with Reverend Rose Hope to sharing your complimentary offer that you have for the group.
Yes, indeed. So I have put that link into the chat. My free offer is a week of heavenly creation. So I have 7 days of creation at the beginning of January, from January 1st to January 7th, every day. I'm going to be coming on with the group, and we're going to be tuning into the records and hearing divine messages. It's a beautiful week of ultimate creation, and that is my gift for everybody. It is recorded as well, so if you can't go live with us, most certainly you will get the replay, and it just takes a couple seconds to sign up for that. So that is my offer. You get me for 7 days. I don't know. Can you handle it?
And what I'd like to ask you, Miss Reverend Rose, is give us one word to leave the audience with. One word.
Grace is what comes to me. And grace is one of those qualities that's hard to define, but it's one we share with the divine. For me, it means compassion, it means gentleness, it means mercy. I use it a lot with my kids when, they're fighting. I will just say the word grace to myself, and all of a sudden I find the grace to be able to move through. And it's one of those things where it is there when we are aware that it's there. And so there's an infinite amount of grace for us.
That's so
Yes.
beautiful. So beautiful. So with all that being said, what we're going to do now is we're going to transfer out of the Facebook Live. So we're all going to say goodbye to everyone on Facebook Live.
Hey, Facebook, your records are closed for the Facebook people. For those that are going into the Q&A, I'm leaving those open. So just so that you know, for those in Facebook land, okay?
And the